First off, I just want to say thanks very much for doing the interview with us, and thanks for coming out to the festival.
It's my pleasure, man. I'm stoked.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you like Colorado? Like, we were just talking about, it's your second time playing Red Rocks. So, I mean, what's it like coming out to Colorado?
I mean, if you could see that guy on the screen right there, that would have answered it all, but just missed him. But basically, it was the answer right there. But I was thinking about it earlier today. Colorado has to be like in the top 3 states in the U.S. for sure. Just on the fact that like the taste in music is so diverse. Everyone's so passionate about just like art and being artistic and like spirituality and just like forward thinking when it comes to like things like weed and just vibes. I just think in general it's just like it's an amazing place, man. I would move here. I really would.
You should definitely do that.
I
Make
should.
a little resident spot here.
I should.
So, I mean, one thing that I know I am curious about, and I'm sure a lot of fans are, is what's your earliest experience with music? I mean, you've been doing this forever now. So what's really, like, what drove you to get into this?
Well, I mean, earliest was probably, like, being a little kid, you know? Like, I used to, like, you know, I grew up, like, pretty poor, so we'd go to garage sales, and I would, like, buy, like, shitty guitars and, like, little broken Casios and stuff, and I just think playing, like, Nintendo and stuff, being, like, a little kid, just getting the ear for like electronic music, I think that was really like the start. But you know, I was in bands and I've always been involved in music, and I think when technology reached a certain point where I realized like I could be the whole band, I could play every instrument, I could create the whole thing and like do it on my terms, you know, like my vision, my idea, and not have to compromise it. I think that's the final inspiration that just made me kind of lock myself in the studio, just see what came out.
So was there any like musical inspirations for you then when you first started that really like drove you to get into that and start making music?
I mean, I think everything, man. Like everything from, you know, video games to stuff on the radio to, you know, if I was playing guitar, I was inspired by, you know, Hendrix and Zeppelin. Or and I think like it's actually interesting. The first beat that I ever made was a game on PlayStation called Sound Generator. That was like the first beat that I ever made, and then. You know, then I started getting into more like weird music, and I heard like Mr. Oizo, Analog Worms Attack, and that made me go buy like a rolling groove box and like distortion pedals and start doing stuff. And you know, every time you come across a new sound, it drives you to like new ideas and new tools. Like, you know, when I met Jake Kill the Noise, who was like a mentor of mine and a good friend, and I saw he was using Ableton and Acid and things like that, and he was doing amazing things with it, so that made me go out and get those things, see what I can contribute in a sense. So, you know, I think inspiration just constantly comes. You know?
So speaking of that too, you mentioned Kill the Noise, but is there anyone else that's really inspiring you right now? Like any up and coming producers or just musicians in general?
Yeah, man, I'm really stoked on Graves. I'm stoked on Epic. I'm stoked on Lax. There's so many dudes that are just like crushing it so hard. I mean, it's like it's even hard to like narrow it down. You know what I mean? But you know, Hero Bust for one is just like the man, dude.
Yeah.
I can't even watch his Snapchat without just like crying in a good way. Crying tears of joy.
Oh yeah. So speaking of that, Lax, you just had them out on your Twonk Nation tour for a few days too, right?
Yeah.
So how was that? Like you were out with, what was it, Gasly, Party Favor, Valentino Khan, and a lot of others. How was that whole experience?
Yeah, we had like a squad of like 10 or 12 DJs that were coming on and off the tour. And we were doing these like crazy back-to-back sets at the end of every show, and we had the Twonk bus. And it was unreal. It was the best touring experience I ever had, and definitely like the hypest show and best response. And I mean, I'm always gonna remember that one. That was next level. And like, you know, a lot of us knew each other, but you know, we all became like really good friends from that too, which is like even better.
Did you ever actually have kids like point out like when the buses went by in their towns or anything like that? Did you ever get like Snapchats or anything?
Every time. Yeah. Every time people would be like, Twonk bus. People would literally snap it like on the highway, like in between cities.
Oh, that's crazy.
Just drove by the Twonk bus.
They knew where the party was going, right?
Yeah. Hopefully they're going the same direction.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So speaking of that, what actually inspired you to start the Twonk brand and everything? Like, I know you're kind of like that out there performer and everything. Is that just where that spawned from, or is there any like outlying message with it too?
I think the outlying message was not everything has to be defined, and people can come up with their own interpretation about how they feel about art, how they feel about music. And so the idea was about doing something cryptic that had no explanation. And so when you saw it, when anyone saw it, they would kind of start to engage and be like, and wonder, like, what is it? Like, what is it about? And, you know, it's kind of the same metaphor as like when you listen to a song or you look at a painting or anything, like you have your own personal vibe with it. And so, you know, I wanted to make something that just had its own vibe, that I wasn't trying to say, hey, this is what it means, this is what it's about. Like, I wanted to leave it open-ended.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know, do something like fun and weird. It's just about being weird, ultimately.
I think that's great, honestly. I mean, have you had any like fans share any really cool, inspiring stories like with Twonk or anything like that? I know some people have like had some really cool, like impactful moments with their fans.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that get like tattoos of like our different symbols and the logos, and whenever I see that, I'm just like the most inspired and the most moved, because that's someone that loves it so much that they're down to like form that bond for life, you know. And I've got like my Twonk tattoos, and I just think that's like amazing, you know what I mean? And you know, people have told me like, you know, I've gotten messages and things about people that, you know, were going through rough times personally, and their only escape is music. And so to be fortunate and lucky enough to be able to create something that helps someone through that is, you know, I'm like grateful for that. It's really dope.
That's awesome that you can do that too.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like don't take it for granted at all.
That's good. So, I mean, like we just talked about, you had a massive headlining tour. You're off of a new EP. So where do you see, like, we're just halfway through the year, where you see yourself in the end of 2016?
Well, we're relaunching the Twonk clothing line with like a new collection and a new website. So we're gonna have like a bunch of new gear and just like doing more stuff that we haven't done. So that's like a really exciting thing that's gonna happen at the end of the summer. And I'll probably be doing like another tour, keep putting out records. You know, I'm like in a phase right now where I'm like exploring a little bit more and like being a little bit more experimental with some of the stuff I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm just curious to see like where that leads me. You know, I almost can't predict like, oh, I'm gonna do this kind of music. It's like I kind of have to just let it happen in a sense. So
Yeah,
I mean,
good.
we'll just see. But
oh, sorry.
no, it's all good, man.
So, I mean,
I will just ramble. So
no, you're good. So, like you were talking about, though, like you're kind of like, you're a very eccentric person. You really put yourself out there. So, what's like one word, if you could only narrow it down to one word, that describes you as a person?
Twonk.
Twonk. There you go.
I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, I mean, how does it feel being back at Red Rocks for another insane show?
Well, being able to play the main stage is definitely like a milestone moment. You know what I mean? It's like you walk down the halls and you see like all the pictures of the performers that have played here, and it's like to be able to be on that stage in such a like legendary spot is unreal.
Yeah.
So I'm like super excited, and I put together like a really dope intro. So just like when that intro kicks off, and I'm just in that moment, it's gonna be
Excited to see that on that. So, outside of that, are there any other venues like that you've played that are on the same level of Red Rocks, or anything that you love just as much? No.
There really isn't, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, okay, so like EDC, we played the bass pod stage, and it was like, it's like a science fiction movie. It's like
Right.
the exact opposite of Red Rocks. Like, this is like a natural, like wonder of nature, and like the bass pod is just like full science fiction, like larger than life, alternate reality. So I guess they're both like pretty grand and pretty amazing, but like this one has more of like an intrinsic, like legendary, vintage kind of like realness to it. You know what I mean?
It's crazy too, like the spectrum of stages and everything. Like you go from Red Rocks to, like you said, playing EDC, you're going to the UK and playing places like Tomorrowland, and how every festival has their own thing too.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. How did this even happen? But it's dope, though. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. So, heading into 2017, are there any artists that you want to work with, whether it be producers or even vocalists or rappers or anything like that?
I mean, I've always had this as my number one all-time project. Like, whether the impossibility of it is like completely impossible, but in my head, it's the dopest thing ever, which is if I could like produce a Wu-Tang album and get all those guys together and just like do all the beats and just like my take on it, because that's my favorite rap group. And
Yeah.
I grew up in Jersey and like I grew up on that, and like I still play those records like in my set still. So that would be like game over.
That'd be legendary.
It would be like I would cry tears of joy. I'm always crying tears of joy.
That's a good thing,
That's
though,
what it
right?
seems
That's
like
the way you should be crying,
It
right?
was leading towards.
Happiness is good, right?
That's good.
So one last question for you then is, if you had a movie that was just a documentary about your life, who would you cast to play you?
It's a good one. Might have to edit out some of this time so I can think about it.
Okay.
Who would I cast to play me? You really got me on this one.
It's
You
a
think like
stumper.
DJs are so like, you know, we just think about ourselves all the time. It should be like easy to answer.
No, it's crazy. Man. You'd be surprised. I've heard some really weird answers too.
Who would you cast as me? Like I would hire a casting director. I don't have to make that. You know, that's why those guys have jobs, dude.
I think for like more of the eccentric side, it'd be so fun to see. What's his name?
Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi would be a perfect.
Shut the fuck up. No.
Some wild, it'd be some wild, dude. Steve Buscemi would be fucking hilarious, dude.
He would be. He would be. I don't know. What about fuck, dude. I don't. Here's my problem, dude. I've always been bad at this. Like, I don't know like actors' names.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
can tell you every character in Game of Thrones by name, but I couldn't tell you the actor that plays.
I feel like there's a lot of people like that though.
You got a bit of a Jamie Lannister thing going on?
Oh what?
A Jamie Lannister thing?
I don't know how to interpret that. That could go a lot of different ways.
The Beat Slayer?
The Beat Slayer. Burn them all. It's lit.
I think you got your new like visuals though. It's just that.
That's right.
Just wildfire.
Just wildfire. Just flame emojis. Just spit out. That's it.
Well, awesome, man. Thanks so much for
Thanks,
talking to
brother.
us.
Yeah, man.
I'm excited for your set.
Right on.
I be on that shit that I hate you